Hi, this is Rachelle from Rivet Patterns. In this video, we're going to be talking about darts. Why we have darts, different kinds of darts, and how we sew darts. So let's start with why we have them. Darts enable us to take a 2D pattern and make it 3D. Most of the time, you're going to find this in bust darts, waist darts, pants darts, maybe an elbow dart in a blouse. The entire reason to do this is, especially in woven fabrics when you have no stretch to compensate for the curve, is because the curves of our body are not flat. So in a woven pattern, you will find them more often. Sometimes in knits, depends just on which pattern and how the designer wants to do it. There are two major kind of darts. There are other minor darts that you will come across, and they're generally the same in construction wise. So this, and I just freehanded this, so this is a bust dart, and you can see how it's kind of rounded out here. So when you put these pieces together and you match up your dart legs and then you open it back up, the side seam will be straight, and you'll have this, of course it's paper, so I'm going to tear it from the other side. You'll have a cup. So you'll find this is called truing the dart. So this is when the seam is curved and you need to be able to make the dart be the same when you press it into one of the side seams. So in this kind of dart, we're going to approach it just a little bit differently. This dart, this is the waist dart from the Susan swing pants. So this dart, you'll notice there's not really any truing, and the reason is because this seam here is relatively straight. So when you put those together and you bend it, your seam is already fairly straight. So we're going to approach these slightly differently. So let's start with the bust dart. Because of this, you want to be able to trace this onto your fabric, and I'm going to use a marker because it's clearer to see. So you're going to just hold this down, put this on your fabric, you're going to come up here, and then you're going to trace this out, and this out, and then up through your arm side. These are your dart legs, here and here. These are the two seams that you're going to sew together. The line in the middle, sometimes you'll find two dots on the other side. This is to show you where to fold your fabric. So if you were doing a tissue pattern, this is where you put your tracing paper underneath and use your tracing wheel. PDF patterns, you know, I don't really do that. So what I do in this case is I make a point through where this dot is, and I make a mark. Now I'm going to take my pattern, this piece away. I'm going to use my straight ruler to draw in my lines. I would normally use a chalk marker like this, not a dark marker. Don't use a dark marker on your fabric unless it's a fabric marker. So I'll draw in my two dart legs, and then I'll draw in my center. So you're not going to cut this out of the fabric. These are your guidelines to sewing your dart. So on a fabric or on a pattern that doesn't have the truing, and that's not necessary, I find it a whole heck of a lot easier to cut the dart out of the paper. You can do this the exact same way we did the last dart, or you can do it this way. Personal preference. So now I have my dart. Again, I'm not going to cut this out of my fabric. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trace it, terribly apparently, onto my fabric. I'm going to trace my dart legs. And then if you feel you need it, you're going to be matching up these two lines to sew, but you can always put your dart leg back in, make a mark. Draw it. So there you go. That's how you make the marks on your pattern pieces. So the next thing is to cut it out and sew it together. So and it's done the exact same way. I'm going to do it with this one just because it's a little bit smaller and it's a little easier for me to work with on camera. Like I said, this is not representative of any pattern whatsoever. It was just me freehanding it. So when you cut your fabric, you're cutting your arm side or your waist or whatever, when you get to this, you're going to want to make sure that you get each of those angles into your fabric. Okay? Probably have to. This blade is getting dull here. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to mark the ends of our dart legs. You can snip into the seam allowance. I just don't like doing that. It's really a personal preference. That is the traditional way. I mark mine with pins. I find them easier to match and work with. Like that. And then you're going to mark where your dart legs, where you're going to stop sewing, because you're going to sew these two together. And that is, sorry, my pen bled a little bit here, roughly right there. All right, so in order to do this, you're going to fold your fabric right sides together. So that is going to end up folding right on that dart, on the middle fold, if you match these up. Okay, so then, this is why I marked them on the back, not the front. Okay, so there's your middle point. You can see it through if you've marked it on the back like I should have, but I guess there's not a front or a back here. So you're matching up your pins, you're going to sew, and this is the fold line, and you're going to stitch from here down here, and you're not going to back stitch here, you're going to run the stitches off just a little bit. So I'll do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so now as you can see, I have stitched along this line right here, and I've left a little out here on the end. So these two tails I'm going to knot a few times to secure it at the very point. So then when you open, and now you can see the cup, and you can see that this, so it presses to one side and it becomes part of your side seam. And that's all there really is to darts.